Now, let me know before we cover this that my intent is not to go over an article. Rather, my intent is to talk about how this stuff, it's popping up more and more because somebody, they need a cash infusion. So, on December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas, Anita Sarkeesian made headlines again for a second time within a month. That first time, of course, being tied to the Mandalorian, where you had headlines like this being made because of blowback over stupid comments. The Mandalorian is taking heat for its betrayal of women. Now, IST critics are facing waves of online harassment. Oh, fun times, isn't it? Fun times there. Now, of course, if you look through this article, you know exactly what you're going to get. It's basically taking up for some of the dumbest hot takes out there. And I think that's the point in making these hot takes. You want to go out. You want to get these type of headlines because you have a primary consideration, which we'll talk about in just a second. Now, as far as Gamergate, Anita Sarkeesian, she loves to conjure these ghosts up. And so does the media. They love this talking point because what they want to do is not only resurrect the ghosts of the past, but they want to tie it into something new, something prevalent. Because, well, if you can get people to talk about that, it may lead to clicks. It may lead to money. And all of these people, they absolutely need it. I mean, we're talking about the media, for example. Many of these places are running around with their tin cups in their hands, begging for donations. Why? Because nobody cares about what they say. But they did care about what they say when they were out there, again, driving traffic on a label like Gamergate. They were getting international acclaim for this stuff. It didn't matter which side was looking at it. Oh no, they were getting a lot of attention, and those follow-through clicks, they meant a whole lot to them. See, I remember going back and looking at these, but then remembering this here. We saw Anita Sarkeesian being shopped in June 2019 as we were hearing about her story. We were getting 10-year retrospectives talking about feminist frequency and all they accomplished. And I kept thinking back then, why exactly are we getting this? What is the point in seeing this after all of that time? Oh yeah, here's why. I mean, if we go out and we look at articles that popped up just 5 short days later, you find out that feminist frequency, it was out of cash, that all of that money they made on the Gamergate title, it all just dried up. And well, you can't go out and you can't get more easily. Not off of that tag. It's got to become something else. See, with Anita Sarkeesian, unlike, say, a Zoe Quinn, she didn't learn that you don't put all of your eggs in one proverbial basket. Because when you throw all those eggs in, sooner or later, basket's going to wear out. Nobody cares. And, well, all of that cash, it's going to dry up. Moreover, we've had Gamergate discussed by the FBI, and I realize that there are many folks out there that still want to ignore what actually happened behind the scenes. But the FBI, they went in and investigated the heaviest points that were being made. They investigated the idea that people were being driven from their homes. People were getting actual threats. They were being told, if you go to X place, then Y will happen. And you know what they found? Absolutely nothing. Now, I will say, too, that law enforcement, they're not equipped to handle a lot of that, but the FBI, with all of these supposed emails, with all of this supposed buildup to it, we even have places like Sci-Fi covering it in TV shows. Yeah, all of that narrative versus the reality, it was a whole lot of nothing. Interesting, huh? And why do you get a whole lot of nothing? What's the primary motivation? Yeah, cash. So hey there. So today you and I are going to take a trip looking at a couple of articles. Now, when we look at this too, my primary motivation, again, is not to go through these articles and just read something to you. What I want to talk about is how this all ties together, how this can make something relevant for somebody, and how at the end of the day, if they can tie all of this stuff into one linear setup, if they can say that Gamergate was tied to comics, was tied to anime, was tied to Star Wars, they have a way to get right back through the door. I mean, we saw Zoe Quinn manage that. She's mentioned in this stuff. She actually went over to comics. She got blowback for going in there, and wouldn't you know it, she made money because of that. Now, before we get into this, too, very briefly, you like this kind of content, you want to help out the channel, consider supporting it by subbing. Consider going and sharing videos, because that drives this stuff, and also interacting with videos. That just means liking. That means commenting on something. You can just +1 or anything like that. And again, thank you very much for listening to my spiel here. So in this article, talking about, again, Anita Sarkeesian looking back at Gamergate, the first thing that I took from this is that they were heavily ignored, despite the fact that they talked to the UN, because that's what being ignored looks like. Also, I took from this a secondary thing, beyond all the buzzwords, beyond all the things that we hear over and over again about who was targeted, about ists and phobes and on. I saw this clumsy narrative wanting to tie all of this together with specific YouTubers. They talk about, YouTube tirades full of ridiculous conspiracy theories on why the person they hate that week is actually an evil demon sent specifically to destroy all they hold sacred. Even if that holds sacred is 1980s comedies, beloved role-playing. They mention Ghostbusters 2016. They mention AOC. You see all of these attempts to tie everything into that. That's why I think that we had the Mandalorian thrown out there. Because in November, this wasn't just the hottest thing being discussed. Star Wars was one of the hottest things being discussed. We had that movie coming up with the rise of Skywalker. We had everybody talking about it in episode 8. And if you were out there throwing out your hot take saying, oh man, I'm being harassed, maybe, just maybe, you could become that leader, that icon again, and maybe you could go out and make cash. You see, again, that's what I took from this move before. I took it as a drive toward relevance, trying to be something yet again, because again, being out of cash, yeah, that's got to suck there. I mean, these folks, they were on top of the world back then. And when they're going back and giving that retrospective, again, the media was on top of the world with it too. They had the perfect bad guy. They had their boogeyman on the internet, as it were. And they told you all of the terrible things that those boogeymen, they were capable of doing. Now, what I say about that too, I would really recommend that you go and you check out the FBI vault records on this, because it will give you a breakdown of what the reality behind the scenes actually look like. And again, from people claiming they were driven from their homes by threats. They were out there and they had to cancel speaking engagements because of threats. All of this stuff was discussed, but basically what you look at in this vault from 526 pages is a back and forth that are complaining about both sides of the equation. And at the end of the day, the FBI saying, yeah, there's nothing here. They don't protect people either, having their money taken away with scams. There have been a few of those out there. They don't actually go in and comment on the reality of this stuff. So that leaves you and I to speculate about why this stuff is. And it's pretty easy to do, don't you think? But anyway, I just wanted to make a quick video on this to talk about what was here, because again, I see all of that, and I saw this attempt for revitalization back in June, and I feel like all of this is the same thing. But anyway, you tell me what you think about it. And again, thank you for your time and attention. Ending, in fact, I want to say thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. You make endeavors possible. These people, they forget all the time who they're trying to talk to. They're basically talking to themselves, hoping that companies will listen along. And when those companies, they do, they forget exactly who they're trying to go out and trying to sell things to as well. That's their bad. Don't want to be that. So I want to end by saying thank you. I appreciate you. If you want to help out with interactions, that's awesome. But you just being here, that's important. Very much so. So thank you. Appreciate you. And we'll do this again soon. Thanks.